Hello and welcome to episode 3 of our podcast, Life in Law, hosted by Acorn Recruitment in connection with the Swansea Junior Lawyer Division. I'm Michael Ives, Legal Recruitment Specialist. Today we have Katie Terry with us. Katie is an NQ Family Solicitor working with Peter Lynn, and she's also the Charities Officer of the Swansea Junior Lawyer Division. Thank you for joining me. How are you?
No problem. Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, well, good, thank you very much. So I wanted to kick off really by asking you about your journey, essentially. So just how you sort of went from LLB student to kind of where you are today.
So when I did the LLB, I was a student at Swansea University. So I became involved in kind of all the extracurricular things. I was on the Bar Society, which is the Barrister Society equivalent, not the Drinking Bar Society. And they got involved with things like mock trials, and they contacted local barristers firms. When we did it my year, we were sponsored by ISCO Chambers. So it was a really good networking opportunity. They also ran the networking dinner in the, I think it's the Dragon, and it's changed every few years. It goes between the Dragon and the Marriott.
Yeah.
And that is essentially a really good opportunity for students to meet. So a judge came, Judge Jarman attended one year, and Elwyn Evans, QC, who's now head of the law school, attended. So it was a really good chance to meet various people. And then when I went on to, I decided I wanted to become a solicitor, so I pursued my LPC, and that's when I got the knowledge of Swansea Junior Lawyers Division. I'd never heard of them before. They were part of a talk that we did on the LPC, so they were holding an event, and I just went along with a few people, and there were some solicitors there who were newly qualified, and basically they were giving up cards and saying that they just wanted to help us along our journey. So I got my first set of work experience, because I'd worked all the way through my degree, hadn't really had any law work experience, so I panicked a little bit, because you always get told you're never going to get a job if you don't have any practical experience in a law firm. So my LPC year kind of really wanted to focus on that and build up my work experience. So I met a solicitor, Kathy Jenkins, who worked in Cameron Jones Huston Howe, who's actually become a good friend of mine through the LPC and this work experience a few years on. So she got me work experience in my LPC, and then after that, other member of the JLD got me work experience in Goldstone Solicitors in Swansea. So I went there I did a Monday and a Friday for a couple of weeks, and basically it got to about February and April of my LPC year, and I was looking for training contracts. So I did a Google search of every firm in South Wales, and I pulled up every single firm, and I emailed every single firm asking if they had any vacancies. A few responded and were really nice, said sorry, we're not looking. A few said, send your CV and we'll keep it on record for when we are looking. Eventually I came across the firm that I eventually got my training contract at, which was JMP Legal. So the application process there was just CV and covering letter. So quickly got to work on doing my CV and covering letter, and I sent it in, and I eventually got through to the interview round.
So what was that like?
Oh, well, they asked me to attend about half an hour before.
Oh, really?
Because they gave me scenarios to do before I went in. So I was given 3 scenarios. One was relating to a personal injury scenario, one was relating to a family scenario, and I think the other one was a criminal scenario with criminal law. And I had to write down all my answers on these scenario sheets before I went into my interview. So I had to hand it in, and they read it all before I went into my interview.
And that was only with half an hour's notice?
Yeah. So they told me to go for, they told me to go up half hour early and just said, there'll be some scenarios. And then when I went there, I didn't have any clue what the scenarios were going to be. Just went there and kind of filled them in as much as I could. It was quite good actually, because a lot of them were kind of procedure based and law based, and because I was still on the LPC, it was quite fresh. So I was able to kind of put down what I knew. Then I went into the interview, and I was interviewed by the training principal, the head of family, and the head of personal injury and clinical negligence. They were lovely people to be interviewed by. They were lovely, but they definitely tested my knowledge. Very much, questions about what the procedure was. I think one of my questions, for example, so the training principal of that firm was a criminal solicitor, so she gave me a list and asked me whether they were intimate or non-intimate samples that could be taken at the police station, so blood, hair, spit, urine, those types of things. I had to say whether I thought they were intimate or non-intimate samples in definition with the law. And then the family solicitor was asking me what factors were taken into account when considering finances in divorce, so pension, house, whether one of the parties had given up work for the child and things like that. There was that big divorce case at the time, I think it was Elwyn's case, where she'd been refused permission to divorce him, so that was big at the time I went for my interview. So they asked me a few questions around that just to check I was kind of keeping up with what was going on. So that was really good. I remember they were lovely, and I remember thinking coming out of that saying, oh my god, I was not very good in that interview at all, and I definitely didn't think I got it. And then one day I was walking into uni for a criminal seminar when they phoned me to tell me I'd been successful. So as you can imagine, I was skipping down the road. I was really happy. So my LBC was due to finish that July, but because I hadn't had any experience actually working, they offered for me to go in as a paralegal. We were just coming up to the Easter holidays, so they asked me to go in for the Easter holidays full time, and then after the Easter holidays I could just go in one day a week until my training contract started, to get used to the firm and the way it worked. It was a really good system actually. And then when my LPC timetable allowed, I went up to 2 days in the firm and 3 days at uni. So by the time I started full time, I kind of knew the people, I knew the system, I kind of knew how it worked. I got on well with my supervising solicitor, and so it was I wasn't as nervous starting my training contract as I would have been.
And what kind of work did you do? I
worked with a family supervising solicitor mainly, so it was sorting out bundles to start off. I was sitting on some appointments with him, just to get a feel for how we conduct the appointments. I think one time I did a brief to counsel. I was reading records and doing chronologies. It was just kind of stuff that could be picked up and dropped as and when I came into the office. And when I started full time, that's when he really cracked the whip then, and I started doing all types of work. I was doing briefs and statements and applications. So it was a really good process. So at the beginning of every day, I would go in to see my supervising solicitor, and I'd knock on his door about 10 to 9, and I'd say, right, well, what do you want me to do? And he would give me a list of everything that needed to be done by me that day. And I would go and do it, and if I had any questions I'd go back to him, or he'd explain. And it was really good, because if I hadn't done something before, he would say, I've got a similar one on this case, it's a precedent, so you can go on to this case and have a look. So it was good guidance. So then when I'd go back to him then at the end of the day and just run through everything I'd done, and if I hadn't done something to how he wanted it, he would sit down and explain to me why he would have done it that particular way. So I found that really beneficial, and it was really good for my training. And then a couple of months into my training, I became police station accredited. Because my firm was a criminal firm as well. So I did my police station qualification a couple of months in, and after that I was on call then.
So did they send you on your own to the police station?
So I went and I watched 2 first, and then they watched me doing 2, and then I had to write them all up and submit them to Cardiff University. And then I had to do 5, but you could only do a certain level of crime. So you could only do triable either way or summary. You couldn't do indictable offences. So I couldn't do murder or GBH with intent and things like that. So I had to do 5 by myself. And then after that, when I got accredited, you could do anything. So I was out by myself, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, with someone sitting opposite me, we'd been sitting in custody for 12 hours. So it taught me a lot, definitely, because you're sitting in a police station opposite someone at 3 o'clock in the morning. You can't ring anybody because it's 3 o'clock in the morning. So you learn to kind of get confident in yourself and kind of just trust in what you're saying. You know that if they didn't think you'd be able to do it, they wouldn't put you there. And yeah, it was really good. So it helped me build a rapport with clients, and I learned how, not just criminal clients then, when I was dealing with family clients, it's transferable skills, definitely. And it's good because, you know, you get things thrown at you in the police station that you don't really expect. And you can go in preparing for one offence, and you can go in and they'll say, well, he's been arrested for harassment, but there's also various other offences attached to it as well. So it's definitely a learning curve, and it's definitely an experience I'm grateful I had. It's definitely given me the confidence to just speak to people and not worry so much, especially when I'm in court now. When I'm in court, you kind of worry that things are going to come at you on a curveball. But that experience taught me that it doesn't matter. Just take a deep breath. You can deal with it. You've got the skills to deal with it, and it'll work out fine. So that kind of gave me the confidence. It's just the 2 o'clock in the morning things I didn't love. Coming home early in the morning. But I did, so the first part of my training contract, I did a split. So I did 3 days in family, and I did 2 days in personal injury and clinical negligence alongside, and then I was just on call once a week. The good thing about my firm was that they didn't do on call on the weekends. They put agents in on the weekends, so I was only ever on call Monday to Friday, so it was quite nice. So I feel quite lucky, yeah. And then partway through my training contract, they felt that the split wasn't really, I was gaining knowledge in family and I was gaining knowledge in PI, but you don't really have the chance to get a lot of knowledge because you only need 3 days and then you have to pass a task on to somebody else. So they thought it'd be better to just go straight to family. So I went straight to family. Pretty much, I did a few bits of wills as well in between. And I moved around the family departments then. So I did partly childcare and private, divorce and child arrangements with my supervising solicitor. Then my supervising solicitor stopped doing divorce, so it was just childcare and private child. And then I moved to the guardian department. So when guardians are appointed in child arrangements and care proceedings, I worked in that department. And then I went back to childcare where I finished my training contract and I eventually qualified into that area.
Okay, because I thought the training contract, it's quite formal, where it's like 4 seats for 6 months. Is that not the case every time then, or?
It was kind of, they tried to do it so that you could get a bit of everything, so that you could kind of decide where you like to practice, and then you can spend maybe the last portion of your training contract just in that area because that's where you want to qualify into. So I know with other trainees in that firm, one of them started off in family, and then they have now moved to crime, so they have officially rotated them. So I think the split was the trial in my year, in my training contract year, and they don't think it worked. So I don't think they've done the split again. The 3 day, 2 day, they wouldn't do it again because it's good to get surface knowledge, but in terms of getting depth and all-round knowledge of the entire process, it's not quite enough. So they haven't done it again. Yeah. So and they've done it with another trainee there as well that I still keep in contact with. They've rotated them to a completely different department, so they are rotating them in a couple of month blocks. But I love family, so I was quite happy to stay in family, and I moved around the family departments then.
Were they quite supportive in the training contract, or did they kind of leave you to your own devices to sort of sink or swim?
No, they were definitely supportive. So I know that I got on very well with my supervising solicitor. So if I had any issues, I knew I could go to him. And with the training principal as well, I went to her when I had issues. I was able to clarify things I didn't know, and you know, more often than not, if you can't find somebody senior to help you, the attitude in the firm was that other people on my level, so I think there was 4 trainees at the time that I was there, and then one of them qualified halfway through my training contract. So there was a few of us of all kind of the same experience, and they kind of help each other to you know, if you can't find the answer and there's no one senior in the office for whatever reason they're out of court, then they would try and help you. So that was really good, and I felt supported by not just the old, you know, the supervisor senior people, but the support staff and the secretaries, you know, who've been there for years and years and years and knows how everything works. You know, they were also supportive as well, so it was nice.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So now you've gone from obviously trainee, you're now NQ. What would you say is changed in that sort of sense? Like, is your role changed quite substantially, or is it the same thing? Or
yeah, so before, I mean, I can still go, so I changed firms. I work a little bit closer to home now, and I can still go to, you know, if I'm stuck, I say, oh, I don't know if I've included everything in the statement, and I can email, you know, my senior partner, and they'll check it for me, and it's completely fine. But I do find that the responsibility is very much mine now, and when you're a trainee, you can kind of, if you make a mistake, you can go to your supervisor assistant and be, oh no, I've made this mistake, and you know, they will kind of be like, right, I will take it on, I will sort it out, but this is what you do next time. Whereas now, that is me. That is me doing that. I'm the person who I need to try and sort it out. So, and I mean, I could run my cases before, but it's just a different type, you know, of responsibility running your cases. You've been responsible for all the finding dates, and so, you know, he would give me, my supervisor assistant would give me an order and say, can you diarise these dates for me? And then he'd say to me, right, let's put this person in for this. Whereas that's on me now. I'm doing all of those decisions. But that just comes with time. You know, I'm practiced at it now, so I know when to start booking in appointments for statements I need to do, and I know how long I need to draft things now. So, you know, it's autonomy and being able to prioritise your own work, whereas before it was kind of being prioritised for me, and I was told what to do. So.
And are there kind of different pressures now? Because I know obviously you have like billing targets and things like that. Is that more prevalent now? Yeah.
Yes, definitely. So in my previous firm, we didn't have billing targets. We had time recording targets, so we had to hit a certain amount of units every day, and that's all they monitored. You know, we had an accounts department who kind of took care of all the billing, and so I never really saw that side of things. Whereas now, that's probably the thing that I struggle with now, is doing all the work I need to do, but all the billing as well, and getting all my targets and things like that. So it's just that extra kind of layer of billing and responsibility that you don't really get when you're a trainee. It's just, it's not just the work and the running the files and the code that you need to do. It is also all the, you know, make compliance stuff, making sure all your files have got ID, that you do regular file reviews on all of them, and then you're doing billing on all of them, and you're regularly billing, and all your cost estimate are up to date and things like that. So that's another added layer of how the role has changed, really.
Oh, and that's interesting. It's certainly a big pressure to put on your shoulders for sure. So what does kind of what does a average day look like for a family lawyer?
So pre-COVID, it would be get up, go into the office. I would check on all my emails that I'd caught up on and that had come in overnight, because a lot of people work well into the night, so catch up on all of that. I keep a separate list, so I have a notes list on my iPad, which I take in, and on that list I have a list of everything I need to do on every single file. So there's just one big list, and I go through and I pick what I need to do that day, and what needs to be done. So that's the first thing. The second thing, I then log on to the legal aid portal to check I've got any notifications, and if I have, what I need to do. And then I will make a start on all the lists, and then something will inevitably happen, and the client will ring and a big issue will come up, and my day will kind of sometimes just go out the window and I have to deal with something urgent. But those things happen. And then post-COVID, now that we're in lockdown, I decide whether or not I'm going to go into the office or I stay at home. I log on and pretty much do exactly the same, but at the same time as well, I make a printing list of everything I need to print when I go back into the office. So it's just a little bit of added layers, and I've got a work mobile as well, so my clients can contact me at home rather than going to the office and having to be diverted and do all those things. So it's just a extra with COVID. All our post goes earlier. We go to like 2:30, so if your stuff isn't there, it doesn't go. So it's just an extra layer of things to think about. And things like that. And then obviously you're at home, so you want to make a cup of tea all the time. So it's just a little bit harder to work from home sometimes.
What kind of caseload is it you have? Is it sort of like private children and divorce, or?
I don't do any divorce at all. I managed to drop that when my supervising solicitor dropped that, which is good because I really don't like finances. I'm really not very good. So in my last firm, I predominantly did childcare, so social services involvement. So I act for parents where the children have been removed from their care, and that's mainly what I'm carrying on doing. And I've got quite a lot of private child at the minute because childcare is quite quiet. Towards the middle of the year, the local authority stop issuing because it's coming up to their budgets, and then after a while, the budgets get renewed and then they start issuing again. So I'm doing private child work at the moment as well. So that's where parents are arguing about arrangements for the children.
Okay, and I take it you don't deal with any sort of legal aid kind of work at all? Or?
I'm pretty much the legal aid person in my firm. Pretty much all my child arrangements ones are all legal aids. I've got a few people who pay me privately, but all my childcare work and all my child arrangements work is pretty much legal aid funded, so it's all on legal aid rates. And that's an extra layer of responsibility as well, because you've got to make sure all the documents are in and that everything's up to date and that the circumstances haven't changed and that you've got funding to cover every aspect of every hearing. So it's that as well. So my case is mainly legal aid work. Yeah.
Okay, and how have things changed for you in light of COVID? Has it increased your workload, or?
Yes, work's massively increased. You've become really busy. Obviously, parents are concerned about COVID and the arrangements, and some don't agree with children going back and forth the properties, others do. There's also issues where court orders are in place and parents not complying with them in relation to COVID. And then there's also childcare issues because parents are now at home with children and people who were managing. Obviously, COVID is a stressful time for parents, and if they were just about managing with the child going to school and being able to have that break, then that's become obviously harder as well because there's now no crash, no break unless you're a key worker. So that's on the rise as well, really.
Interesting. That's probably a great place to leave things this week. Thank you so much, Katie, for coming on the podcast. It's hugely appreciated. I think it was hugely beneficial to hear from Katie's experiences as an NQ. It's very interesting to learn the benefits of joining organisations such as the JLD, which gives you strong network and opportunities to get that work experience that will separate you from the rest of the pack. And it's very interesting to know that in training contract interviews you're likely to get scenario-based questions. And it's good to hear about a training contract as well and to find out what a family lawyer does day to day. I hope you enjoyed listening. We have plenty more guests lined up and we will have more content out soon. Take care, everyone. Thanks for listening.